Okay, 1980 Ford Fairmont water pump replacement. This thing sounded like it had square bearings in it for a long time, and then finally it started leaking. A few tips. First thing is make sure to get the car hot, and then let it hot soak for a few minutes so that the heat from the exhaust manifold heats the engine up above the thermostat rating. Then start it up for a minute or 20 seconds so that the radiator is flooded with hot water, and that'll make removing the lower radiator hose much easier, because when the hoses are warm and they tend to come loose off these fittings a lot easier. It also makes it so that the thermostat's open so that air can enter the top while the water drains out the bottom. Now you are going to be dealing with 200 degree water here, so you just have to kind of use your brain on that as to how to do it safely and environmentally so that you don't hurt yourself. Okay, so the next step is, well, the engine, cools off now, is I think we can you can see that this water pump is done. The bearing in it is gone. So we'll remove fan shroud, the fan, then we got to get the belts off. Then we got to get this hose off. I still want to try and do this while it's semi-warm. Then we got to get this hose off. All the rubber stuff is going to be much easier to manipulate and break loose when it's hot. Almost impossible when it's cold, and it'll probably tear. So these hoses are not that old. I did freeze plugs on this car not that long ago. The coolant is not that old. It's maybe 3, 4, 5 months. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to filter the coolant and put it back in. So let's take this thing apart. Okay, unfortunately I had to take this whole assembly off because this bracket here rides on this post, and that's welded onto there. Now this thing is bad. Now here's a commonly unknown thing, that when you change the water pump, you're supposed to change that, because when that water pump bearing goes bad, that vibration channels into the fan clutch and destroys this bearing. I'm not going to do it because this fan clutch is only 6 months old, and the bearing feels and sounds fine, but you're supposed to always change these as a pair. The fan clutch and the water pump should always be changed together. So now it's just a matter of getting the pump off, cleaning the... Oh, this is going to be a pain in the ass too. Getting the pump off, cleaning the gasket up, and putting it back together. Okay, use your tap and die kit to clean your bolts up and clean your holes out. Run them through your holes and make sure you don't have anything there. Now the trick is here, the difference between ghetto and non-ghetto is this uses a paper gasket. You do not use silicone on this. This is a mistake 90% of mechanics make. This paper gasket is like a sponge. It will absorb water and swell up and fill any voids. Let the gasket do its job. Don't put silicone on it. Just clean dry surfaces, both sides, clean it up, and torque it down to the specs. Probably about 15 pounds on this. And let's put it back together. Got our bolts all nice and cleaned up there. Threads are all clean. Alright, we're all back together. Everything's tight. Belts are on. Belts are tight. These belts are pretty new too. I'm surprised that I changed those belts probably 4 months ago maximum, and the water pump was fine then because I spun and felt all the bearings when I had it apart. So I think what we're ready to do is fill this thing back up and see how bad it leaks and see if I have to tear it all apart again. Okay, what I'm doing is I'm listening to some ghetto Honda Civic that somebody took the muffler off of because they think it makes them cool. What I'm doing is I'm filtering this through a couple layers of couple layers of paper towels. I can't do this stuff one-handed. This funnel is probably one of the best tools I own because this will get all the bubbles out of this thing. And what we do is we just let it run until the thermostat opens, and then once the thermostat opens, the water will flow and you'll get all the bubbles out. This is a filter, and I forget what this is called, but there's a Gano filter or something. I don't know. The race cars use these. And this keeps the chunks out of the radiator. See the water in there. As soon as the thermostat opens, it's going to suck water into it. Getting hot now, crap. There we go, just opened. Just opened. Now we'll get all the air out of it because the thermostat's open. No leaks. I think we can call this a wrap.